All right, guys, very special episode today. Ball Magnets have collabed with the Mason Cox Show to put together a great podcast. We've got obviously Coxie, the main man, and Tommy Phillips, former teammate of both of us at both Hawthorn for me and Collingwood, has started up SUPERBOOST, the future in sports hydration. We're going to talk about Ball Magnets' partnership with SUPERBOOST moving forward. Some incredible chats we had on this one. Flip, what did we cover off on?
Everything. We swapped passports in the US, a lot of good footy memories and stories, and just chatting about business. It's been good.
Correct. Yeah, we love getting to America. That's probably something that we've always looked forward to every off-season. Obviously, we like to get to Austin, Texas, best part of the world, Coxie would say. So plenty to cover off on and an episode you don't want to miss. Ball Magnets podcast would love to thank this week's brand sponsor, SUPERBOOST, the next generation in performance hydration. SUPERBOOST is the only sports drink built by athletes for the next generation, formulated to boost performance and improve recovery. SUPERBOOST is packed with electrolytes, is low in sugar and calories, and an unbeatable taste across delicious flavors, including blueberry grape, strawberry watermelon, and my favorite, orange mango. SUPERBOOST is now available at stores including 7-Eleven, IGA, and more.
He's a superstar. He is an absolute superstar, Tom Mitchell. Cripps at the back. Cripps is too good. Yes! Oh, how good was that?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get straight into it. The two Toms. This is a big pod here. A lot of manpower in here, and there's a lot happening. And I think a lot of people, whenever they listen to podcasts, right, they want to hear the stories that no one tells them. They want to hear the stories in the off season, the stuff that happens outside of the media that everyone gets into. And I know you two have traveled a bit. You've done a bit of traveling in my home country in the US. Is there any
great part of the world?
Top 10?
Yeah. I reckon we've been what, 2 or 3 times?
Yeah.
Probably go again this off season.
Any good stories? I know a few stories, but I think the broader public needs to know this.
I mean, your mates, and through your brother and great family connections, our man James Bates, the Betatron.
Shout out to the Betatron.
Yeah, shout
what
out
a great
to you,
man.
Betatron.
That's where we normally stay at Bates's house.
Amazing.
He plays for the Austin Crows, so in the US AFL, which you're obviously an ambassador for, and I think they've won like 6 flags in a row. Like they just don't lose.
They haven't. When was the last time they actually lost?
They lost about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. My brother's been like MVP of the tournament, the national tournament, so many times over. And it's an incredible place, Austin, Texas. Just insane. Like the amount of stuff that goes on from ACL to, the F1 and everything else. It's a place for fun for all ages.
The Longhorns as well. Like we got to know Isaac Pearson, who was the punter.
I was on the phone to him today.
Pierce,
good, going well. Still got the Aussie flag on the back of the
Have you seen facilities like that before? Like it just makes the AFL look.
Not great is what it makes the AFL look like. Like University of Texas, for those listening, is a place that is one of the top tier universities in America. They've got anything and everything. The money they make has to go back into the facilities. They can't spend it really on anything else. So they end up essentially beefing their facilities up to be the best of the best. So they're the same and pretty much on par with a lot of NFL facilities. You've got names above lockers. You've got, all these kind of things where you sit inside the locker. I try to explain this to a lot of people back home is here is where you like sit in a chair inside your locker. And then it's like, you got drawers either side, you got the lights and everything else. They've got a barber shop inside there. Like
they got an arcade.
Like it's simulator,
It's crazy.
Cryotherapy, everything.
Whenever you go to those places, do you sit there and go like, oh, AFL's got a fair way to go?
Yeah, but I feel like we don't need that stuff. I feel like they don't even use half of it. It just looks good.
Yeah.
I remember we did the facility tour, which we've done a few times. We went onto the oval, or the field as they called it.
Yeah.
And we were just having a kick around with the NFL ball and our ball and teaching a few of their players about AFL. And they pointed up to a few of the boxes in the stadium. Do you remember what they said?
They were saying, they're owned, it's $20 million per year or something.
Per season.
So I think it was
something like that.
Which is like 12. 8 or 9 home games.
There was 10 boxes for $12 million. They had to pay $12 million US to get the box for the season. So you're paying over $1 million per game.
Per game.
Yeah. And there's about 10 boxes.
That is some serious.
These are your Matt McConaughey's. These are your, big operators. Bevo even. Yeah.
He's
a famous cow.
Let's talk about him.
Bevo. And Bevo's the famous cow that they tranquilized before games to make sure he's calm.
Well, he sleeps the whole game. He's the mascot.
Yeah.
And do they tranquilize it? Because he sleeps the whole game.
I think they give him a little bit of a horse tranquilizer.
Okay, that's not great.
I'll have to fact check that. But
yeah. anyway, the atmosphere in Austin is awesome. We like to get to America most years. Obviously, a bit of business with what we're doing with Ball Magnets and SuperBoost, and then obviously good to travel around. Last year we actually went. Remember when you missed your flight to the US? So I was actually one out for the first part of the leg. Your Esther didn't go through, so you got sent around at the airport.
Yeah,
just not fill it out,
right.
or
yeah, I don't know. It was it took a while to go. Took a while to go through. It actually ended up being 10 minutes too late, so I could have actually still boarded the plane.
Did you do it at the airport?
He did it live.
Yeah,
It was live and exclusive. I was doing that thing, and they
real Tom Brown scenario.
yeah,
was
correct.
It?
Yeah, Tommy Brown, and they turned it back. So yeah, I had to wait another 24 hours. And
A bit of silver lining. That's the night I met Dan McStay, the first night, because I'm like, well, I got to find something to do. So I went to the basketball, and I didn't know
Lakers,
Dan
right?
Lakers. It was a preseason game, and Dan McStay was in the line buying tickets, and he said, "Hey, come watch the game with us." And so I got to know Dan. We hung out for a couple of nights, then Flip joined in on the trip, and off we went.
At that point, did you know you were going to Collingwood, or was this before the trade period?
So we kind of the media had an idea. Dan and I sort of had a look at each other as if we both kind of knew, but we didn't really know. I said, "Is your trade going through?" And he said, "Oh, mine's about to go through tonight." I'm like, "Oh, well, we better get dinner and things like that and celebrate." I was hopeful, obviously, that my trade was going to go through maybe a week or so later. So, yeah, we hung out for a couple of days until Flip got the ESTA approved.
yeah, it was amazing. Yeah,
Because Dan was kind of touted to come to Collingwood for a long time, right? Like you were a bit of a last second, and I guess as far as the trade goes. Like, so you were sitting there looking at him going, I know where you're going, but you have no idea that I'm about to be your future teammate.
Yeah, pretty much. Mine was obviously probably not as well publicized. Like Dan, I think from the halfway point of the year, it was known that he was going to go back to Victoria and that Collingwood were chatting to him. There were some rumours that I was going to Collingwood, but yeah, it was nothing as far down the line as his trade. So
you're overseas. You're not in Australia. Like, is there a medical that you have to do overseas, or is there some kind of doctor thing you would think that would have to go through before you kind of get signed on? Or what's the process of getting traded while internationally, overseas?
I think in regards to your body, like I'd missed a game in about 4 years, so that's probably enough to know that you're going to be fine. You still do catch up with the medical team. So I caught up with Fuxie, the physio, and Sammy Harker, the doctor. My trade went right down to the wire. I reckon there was 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
We were in Miami when I saw a mate of ours, Lou Headley, who University of Miami. Yeah, it was like in the middle of the night in Miami. We were like, well, I couldn't sleep. So I'm like, I got to stay up. And then we're all sort of sitting around the phone, refresh. My manager actually said it was a good thing that I was away and out of the country because he didn't want my head noise to be, thinking about what the media was saying and things. He's like, go away, have a break. He's like, leave it with me. I'll sort out what needs to be sorted. And then it went through with literally a minute to go. We're with
me and Nank just jumped on
the
you.
Nankosaurus, one of my other mates, Lockie Nankervis.
Peter Nankerville.
Yeah, they jumped on me and a celebration turned into a bit of a wrestle. So me and Nank were boys, as boys do on footy trips. But it was a pretty cool moment. And to have two of your best mates over there to share that with you was pretty cool too.
What was that? What was his reaction like, Tom? You were there on the day.
Well, me and you have both been traded a few times. They're listed. You're still going. You both are still going. It's a weird feeling when you're going from one, place that you've had, a lot of memories at, and then going to another place. I couldn't imagine looking at the perspective, trying to get perspective around it. You look at every other sport, the NBA, EPL, the big global sports, when they trade people, when they do that sort of stuff. Like it's amazing like how, it can be like a weird feeling for us, but at least there's like a bit of a lead time with like, I reckon you sort of know things are going to happen. And then when it does happen, it's shit. Okay. But then sometimes, in these other sports, man, like they can be traded within a few hours.
And they don't even know.
Like,
sometimes they find out through the media, the communication's poor, and through the athletes we've got to know through business, like you hear stories and we're like, well, we've actually got it pretty good here. Like the transparency and your involvement and saying where you want to go and what you want to do is much superior in the player's favour compared to American sport.
It's very different. AFL is the guaranteed contract part of it is very unique to probably any other sport around. Like you don't just get moved around. And I'll never forget whenever I was growing up, there's a guy that was playing for the Dallas Mavericks who got traded while he was in a game. Traded during the game. And he's sitting on the bench, didn't even realize. And he's sitting there going like, you need to leave. He's like, why? He's like, you've just been traded to whatever team. Now you got to go fly over there and you got to live there. And that's your future. Yeah. So it is quite different and like pretty cool in that sense. I think there's a bit of a cultural want for players to stay at a team for a long time, where in other like overseas markets and stuff, no one expects a player to play for the same team their whole career, if that makes sense.
That whole concept around being a one club player, which I don't know, does loyalty exist? I don't really know if
it's changing. I think it's changing quite a bit now. Yeah.
I feel like clubs, as soon as they're done with the player, they won't have an issue. They'll do what's best for them and vice versa.
Mid-season trade and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting to see what that goes with. But I think on that, if the mid-season trade happens, you have to have both parties agreeing that that's okay. I don't think like the AFL can go in and say like, you're going to move to Queensland next week and you're going to have to find a new place and everything else. If they do that, then you have to have some kind of financial remuneration for that. Like you can't just all of a sudden say like, see you later. There's not enough money in AFL players to make that okay.
I think.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Back to the Collingwood thing though, like it was a real possibility in the days leading up to the final day of the trade week. And obviously I had Flip to lean on because he'd had a great career at Collingwood himself. He played in the 2018 grand final. He'd been there. How many years did you have there?
5, I think.
Over 100 games.
Back when you started, sort of.
Yeah. So he'd been there and he talked me through, what the club's like. We FaceTime Brash, one of the other physios as well. We got to know Brash over the phone.
A lot of great
But just spoke me through, how much of a great club it is, the fan base, like, the experience of game day in the crowds, and, it was a helpful selling point as well.
Yeah, far out. And I want to ask this passport question. Now, there's a story within this time frame of this all happening. So
this must have been the day
weird
after.
Stuff that was happening.
There's a bit of parent trap, twin swapping of passports. Is that true?
Yeah,
my mistake.
There's a few things.
We were going from Miami to Austin. For some reason, we had a separate flight about half an hour apart.
There was a tornado coming in. There was a hurricane. Miami Hurricane.
Miami Hurricane. Yeah.
It's not up to its name. So I went early, and Tommy and Nank were coming after, but somehow.
My mistake, he grabbed my passport.
I end up with this guy's passport. He's got mine. Not to mention, couldn't check in my big luggage bag in time, so I had to leave it at the airport anyway. Jump over to Austin with a backpack and a little carry-on. And then the bag ends up being there for 52 days until I go back.
52 days.
Yeah, but I go back about 6 weeks later.
I'm surprised I kept it there for you.
Yeah, they didn't throw it out.
Yeah, it was in the like oversized. No, not oversized. Just like storage.
What was the look they gave you when you went back to pick your baggage up? They're like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, they were going, "What are you? How are you back here? Why do you even bother coming back?" I mean, that story in itself is pretty rogue.
There's some good kits and things in there that needed to be retrieved.
There was
shoes.
Yeah.
Like it was worth going back for.
Yeah. I mean, it ended up being a bit of a cost. But
was the passport part of this?
No. We ended up working that out. I don't know how.
We sort of said that
works.
We're, which we are. Both our names.
Say to him?
Well, both our names Tom. We're traveling together. Somehow our passports mixed up. I was kind of like I had my ID and stuff, and I was like, "This is an honest mistake." I think they checked the flight you were on. It's a bit of a.
So I think I gave them my passport. They didn't really look at it and go. They just like scanned it, put it in, and they're like, "Yep." Just go back and I keep going. But I don't know how it worked with you.
Well, I remember because he called me. He's like, "Hey, do you have my passport?" Because I got yours. And then I looked. I'm like, "Oh, I've got yours." No. But then my guy, who I went through the security, he looked at mine.
Yes,
and he's just going, "This is not you."
He's gone.
But I sort of got on the front foot. I'm like, "Look, I can explain this."
You're ready. You're sitting there at the line going like, I've got my story in my head. Ready to go.
Pretty quick.
But yeah, I obviously had all my IDs and cars and explained what happened.
Did he put you in like the box? I don't know if anyone's ever been there in the airport where if you get in trouble, you get put in this like little box area and they get like, you get grilled.
It was pretty cruisy, to be honest. It was more, we just laughed about the fact that obviously there was the missed international flight and then we've somehow changed identities for about an hour. So, but we got to Austin, our favorite city in America, and never looked back. Had a great trip there. Went to Barton Springs.
ACL.
Great spot.
Yeah, Barton Springs.
Do you love Barton?
Yeah, I love Barton. Love the Barton Springs.
What do you call the big meat house places you can eat? What are they called? Barbecue
joints.
Barbecue houses.
Yeah. Smokehouses.
Yeah, great.
Smokehouse. Yeah. Franklin's. If anyone's been to Franklin's out there, they know it's one of the best in the world down there in Austin. We'll get
everybody dance.
Yeah. We'll get into another one. The Vegas to Phoenix trip. Now, bit of petrol, Tom. I have to tell this story. This is actually a story I wasn't planning on bringing up on here. I know you know exactly what I'm going to bring up.
It's good.
At one point in my life, I was going down to the peninsula, right? And I'm going to Tom's house, and Tom's, I'm pretty much there. It's 2017, 18, right? And you got a beautiful place down there. Shout out to the fam. And I get this call from Tom. I'm like, where are you at? And he's like, oh, I had a bit of a bundle. I was like, what is it, Tom? What could possibly be the issue? He's run out of petrol on the highway. This is like the main highway.
Cranbourne Road.
Cranbourne Road.
East Link or Peninsula Link.
And he's called me up like a dog with his tail between the legs going, oh, can you come bring me a kettle or a can with petrol, please? A jerry can.
Go to the petrol station.
Go to the petrol station.
In Sorrento at this point?
I was already there. And he said, drive back to get the jerry can, fill it up with, petrol, and then come find me on the side of the highway somewhere and drop it off so I can fill my car up. This describes you pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It does.
And this is not the first time you've almost run out of petrol. Apparently in Phoenix.
A lot. Yeah. We nearly ran out of petrol.
Well, before that, so we went to Vegas because the Lakers were playing a preseason game. And we've got to know the head of security, John Stern at the Lakers, quite well. He's a friend of ours.
Love you, Johnny.
Shout out to Johnny. And we got to the game. We just made it in time for the game. We paid a silly amount for seats because it was very last minute.
They didn't let us in until the third quarter or something. Yeah,
because we didn't organise prior because we were hoping might be able to meet LeBron. That was the sort of big ticket item. We were like, well, we can't pass this piece up.
That was the righto.
So we got on. We met John. We met a few of the players. We got on the court in the stadium in Vegas. It was cool. We didn't meet LeBron, which flattening, but it was a preseason game. He had to get out of there, and so we were only in Vegas for a night for the basketball. Then the next day we'd heard of Phoenix was really cool. So we're like, well, let's drive to Phoenix. And we thought it'd be like 4 hours. Like we were kind of measuring on the map. We're like, oh, it's roughly like kind of, I don't know, like Melbourne to
usually you don't sleep Adelaide. In Vegas, Coxie, but we actually slept a full 12 hours.
Yeah, we had a great.
You slept 12 hours in Vegas.
12 hours.
You didn't do Vegas right then.
No, we didn't. That's all right. We wanted to do it our way. Health, wellness.
Health and wellness. It was smoothies and things.
Correct. Yeah.
Body's a temple.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's nice.
But so back to the.
How good is that? How good are the In-N-Out? Just the thick shakes and
that and Chick-fil-A.
They get a big top wrap, don't they? They get a huge wrap.
AT introduced me first that one.
Huge.
And we also what was the car? We had a Mustang. That was cool.
Yeah, that was
we hired you can get really cool cars in America. We had a Mustang, which was cool. Anyway, we drove from Vegas to Phoenix the next day thinking it'd be about 4 hours. And midway through
huge.
Yeah.
Great spot
there.
We underestimated the time. It actually ended up taking us 8 hours. We were in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, too long.
And we were hitting low on the petrol bar again. We were in trouble. And we pulled over to this like parking sleep spot and we ran into this guy. We're like,
beautiful
hey, mate,
day. It was, top. I had my bright pink shorts on.
Board shorts,
The guy said, we're like, where's the nearest, petrol station for you, man? Like, do you know this place? And he's like,
his accent.
It's like,
I think you're all in trouble.
Yeah, it's 25 miles away. I don't know what you're going to do. It's like, I think we got like 10, 15 in us, maybe. It's like, you boys ain't going to make it.
And also at this time, Flip was obviously, his name was being thrown around in trade discussion as well. And he had a phone call with SEN on trade radio. So we also needed to find reception to get that interview done.
Tommy, like we got to call in like an hour. We need to either not, we need to get some petrol. We
somehow found a McDonald's in the middle of the desert in like Phoenix, and Flip's like standing up on this bench, like getting reception during a call with SEN. And then we got to Phoenix. Well, we somehow made it without losing. Like we're on empty.
Yeah,
and we would have been in massive strife.
Oh gosh!
But somehow the car just keeps going. Yeah, it kept going.
I saw one thing on Hamish and Andy. Apparently, you can go 100 Ks over the empty. And you're still good.
Yeah. Well, we were doing, remember, like
I've what the story you told before, right? We've all pushed that barrier.
But we'd hit the accelerator.
Some more of that.
You'd let the car roll out. Like you used a bit of petrol, you let it roll out. And then we'd hit it again and let it roll out.
Yes.
Wow. Neutral for a bit.
But we had a lot of time together, discussed all sorts of topics.
But can we talk about the environment and the landscape? Like the topography and just like the desert and the mountainous area. It was just beautiful. Like there's nowhere else in the world that's like, it's so unique, that whole.
You go through like that. You got the Grand Canyon, you go out to Arches National Park, you got Bryce, and you've got Zion, that whole area around Utah. is just beautiful. It's like you're there and you really feel like you're in a desktop background, which is like terrible to say because that's how we envision things in our life. But like to sit there and experience that is just something that's almost like spiritual around it. You know, it's an amazing place. If anyone's out there listening that hasn't been, definitely recommend it. But a lot of times athletes, like yourself, myself, everyone like kind of goes over to America to experience sport, right? Like what would be the number one thing either one of you would experience over there, like bucket list item I'm talking about?
Let me just talk about the story around this ice hockey, right? So six weeks later, when I go and we go back over to New York, do some stuff with Paddy Mills with SuperBoost. So did some filming and that sort of stuff. But a few days before that, we went a little bit earlier, flew in, this all happened in about 24 hours, but I flew from Melbourne to LA, stop over for 2 hours, LA to JFK.
Yeah.
JFK straight to Madison Square Gardens. Walked in with 2 bags of luggage. Sat in the crowd. I was meeting a few other mates there. They were sitting in the opposite side. Watched the ice hockey. Awesome fun. Great. Then had some dinner after that. Dropped the bags back at the hotel. Had a few drinks, and then the next morning at 10 to 6 a.m., took a flight from New York to Miami to get my bag.
Jeez.
Got my bag.
Freaking Flyers stop.
2 hour stopover, back to New York that afternoon.
2 hour stopover in Miami. So you went to Miami just to pick up your bags and go back.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know what was in that bag that you needed so desperately, but it had to be worth something.
That's work rate. Contest to contest.
I always turn up. That's the thing.
Yeah, wow.
It's a great piece in the story.
Yeah, correct.
Wow.
There's a few pieces, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you do the ice hockey is what you'd go for?
No, it's not what I'd go for, but I think a Super Bowl would be good, or NBA final, I reckon.
Yeah. I'm a huge basketball fan, as you know, so I'd say
basketball.
NBA finals would be awesome. Having said that, the Texas Longhorns home game was incredible. Like the entertainment side of things and, just packing 100,000 people into a stadium like that, like just such a cool feel to it. I don't know. It was so unique.
Do you think there's a way that AFL can do that better? Entertainment?
Oh, for sure. But
they're doing it. They're starting to do it.
Halftime show of Super Bowl? No.
We were getting halftime shows though for the AFL Grand Final. I think even whenever we go up, like through the banner, we've got like fire and all that kind of stuff. Now it's like a bit of an entertainment for everyone. They, the lights go off, they shut it down, and kind of gets a bit of atmosphere going with that. I think they're taking subtly little chunks here and there in the progression to become something that's quite spectacular.
Yeah, it's a mix of a few things, I reckon. Like it's budget and what resource you have. It's culture and what's sort of expected, and how to improve that whole outlook. And then it's it's the offering around. You just want better creativity and energy around that stuff. But like I think teams are getting more through their outside of the football department stuff, being able to then create those sort of things for membership, for fans, that type of stuff, more engagement. I think it's improving. Like it's on its, and obviously a lot of the American stuff is a really good to look at that and see that and go, okay, this is sort of probably world leading when it comes to entertainment and commercialization of these things. But I think it's budget and market. Like that's, the US is probably a little bit ahead and it's got a bigger population. There's a lot happening, but Aussies there's a unique sort of feel to, especially in AFL, right? There's a unique following with that too. And I know a lot of Americans, especially, you would have seen it, are really, when they first see the sport and they watch it and they go, what is this? Like I never knew this existed.
Crazy,
they really love
man.
it.
You're nuts. I can't believe it.
So it's cool. It's really cool for them.
Or pads, they can't get their head around
blows their mind.
100%.
I think in terms of travel to America though, like in terms of personal development, which is, a lot of our trips to America being based on, performance and how we can improve as athletes, but also learning about, what we can do, say with Phillips doing with SuperBoost and all the athletes that he's met and who have, bought into SuperBoost, for example, like obviously Paddy Mills and Joe Ingles, some like we try and connect with, a few professional teams over there each season, whether it be in the NBA or the college teams, and connect with athletes and learn. So that's the thing I love about American sport is because, in terms of sports science, Australia is quite advanced and we're very good, but there's so many things you can still learn from American sport and just the way they operate. And I guess coming back to the athletes themselves is a really good starting point.
with that point as well, mate, there's so many Australian athletes that have gone over there, especially in the football space.
High performance managers too.
Yeah.
With college footy.
Too,
yeah. So like obviously through Miami, through Austin with Isaac and Lou that were there, you know, these individuals that there's heaps of guys now over there that, you know.
Even the NBA, like more and more Aussies every season. You know?
Yeah. Like, so, I mean, that's a good thing about that. It's good to see. And then especially guys that have been on AFL lists as well that might have been delisted or, you know, they get to a stage and then they actually go and, you know, Mitch McCarthy over in Orlando.
Flynn Appleby.
Flynn Appleby, Damon Greaves.
Griever,
you know, he's going over. Like these sort of guys that have finished up, had a short stint with their footy career here and then they go and want to try and do something over there. It's cool.
I've got to ask this because I've known both of you two as AFL players, right? And very different pre-game routines. Now, you've probably picked up a few things along the lines, probably more Titch than you, Tom. Hate to say it, but Tom Mitchell is 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours before a game, maybe starting to get ready. Tom, you just kind of rocked up and just was like, let's do this thing.
Does he talk to you before the game?
Not a ton, but like so myself and him are always the last ones out of like, so we go to the facilities before we go to the MCG and we'll do all of our prep work and everything in there. And we're always like the last ones to kind of leave, even training sessions and stuff. Like we're always the last ones to leave. I always see him. You do these like the handball juggle and then you do also the jiu-jitsu flips on. I don't know how to describe it, to be honest.
I'd say I do things differently for sure.
I love it, though. Yeah. I absolutely love it. And I
cop some flack for it. Geordie to go, he loves giving it to me, but it's just what I need to do to get the best out of myself. That's what I like to do as well.
You still sit out there at the end of the training sessions? That's how the best players stay the best.
And try to kick goals. Didn't happen this week, unfortunately.
I love it. Like, isn't it funny, as you mentioned, you look around the locker room before a game, there's so many different guys doing different things. Some guys need to be calm. Some guys go to the quiet room, lock themselves in. They can't be around any noise. Some guys are blasting tunes. They love it. They're dancing. Other guys are doing jiu-jitsu, rolling on the floor.
Tommy like would always, like throughout the week, we'd just be, you know, training hard, doing all that sort of stuff, but then taking the piss and a lot of banter and, you know, in Hawthorn days. But then when it gets to games, he just locks in, right?
Is there any one piece of advice around prep of yourself, your body, whatever it may be, for games, career, whatever it may be, in that sense, that you would want to pass on to someone else?
Yeah, I think it's got to be individualized, like as much as it can for people. Like we've all got different upbringings, different coaches and things that make us tick with our personality and, you know, our character and the way that we sort of go about our preparation and recovery and trying to perform in a certain environment that's, you know, high pressured and there's a lot of strain around that from different areas. So like if you're better at sort of keeping, you know, things out, not getting too much information or advice from certain people, but then you'll take it from one person specifically with, you know, stuff you got to do with your game or whatever it is, then that might work for you. If you're more jovial and you got to feed off everyone else's energy and get around everyone else, you know, we know guys that are like that, some that just are into their shell. Like, I don't think it's a one size fits all. I don't know about you.
One thing our club does really well.
Yeah.
I think both during the week in terms of guys know what they need to do, and we got a pretty experienced list, so that obviously helps. But I think the club are very good at, like, you know what you need to do. Like even in our warm up, like you'll see guys. It's not a one size fits all. I think that's just such an old school approach. Like it's very individualized during the week on game day. What you need to do, then we come together as a unit, and it comes all together.
It's so true. I think a lot of people think that you have the 2 hours you play a game every single week, and that's all that happens. Which people don't even realize. Like there's probably maybe 4 to 5 hours of prep work before, you know, that even happens on the day, right? So like, you know, you've got all the stuff from sleep and diet and everything else that goes into it. That's a 24/7 job. And then like even at our club, and you were part of this with Paula, like we have a ballerina that essentially sets an individual program for each person to prep yourself for training for game days and different muscles you want to activate and different things that might take you an hour to go through just to be able to, you know, train. Like there's so many little meticulous things along the way that people don't see, that they only see the outcome of. And then they only see this small amount of time that you're actually out on the ground, which is probably, you know, maybe a 10th of the actual time you put in through the week. Yeah. It's such an interesting thing. And it's been insane. But I want to ask this because I was just thinking about Buddy Franklin playing what might be the last game right at the MCG and things like that. Like, do y'all have any favorite memories on the MCG, Tom, I'm going to say, I'm hoping it's not the time you got knocked out and kicked a goal at the same time, because I was sitting there right next to you whenever that happened. It was
that happened,
scary times for me.
Have you
somehow
ever seen
just
someone
laughed it
kick a
off.
goal that's been unconscious?
So you were on autopilot.
Autopilot, yeah. I was
He's got a sixth sense for the goals.
yeah.
What game? How'd you get knocked out?
Chris Main named me in the head. Yeah,
Friendly fire.
round 8, 2018.
September 08.
Yeah. Something like that against Geelong. Yeah, that
What's
was,
your best memory outside of that?
Oh man, I remember we had a run similar to what, watching the Pies now, like just a run where you just win those close games and you just, 2017, I remember we would be in a lot of games, but we would sort of lose by maybe 1, 2, 3 goals, and the group almost hadn't connected and matured and meshed as well as it could have. And then it's almost like that. We went through a stage where we would then win those tight arm wrestle games the following year, and just knowing that, all right, we're onto something here. And like, it's probably similar to what you guys are feeling now, where like there's just so much confidence and energy running through the group where like you just back yourself in and you'll win those tight games against other teams across 4 quarters. So like that final series 2018 was pretty cool. Yeah. Those big crowds and that sort of stuff.
I'm going to ask you, Titch, was it whenever you got 54 disposals against us in 2018, or was it?
So obviously last night Pendles broke the all-time disposal record, and the roar around the stadium was like, wow. It was like a team had won a final or grand final. Like, it was so loud. I'm not sure whether it was because of the roof and it was enclosed, but that was loud. I remember that game. Was it round 1? Did you say?
I want to say, yeah.
Anyway, I remember like it was late in the last quarter and the crowd started clapping. Yeah. And like later on I learnt why, because of that record. But during the game I was like, what are they clapping for? Like, has someone done something hilarious in the crowd? So I was actually thinking about it. And then it made sense. I got interviewed after the game, I think by Abby Holmes, actually. And then it made more sense then. But
so you didn't realize it at the time?
No, no idea.
Wow.
No idea. But
you're just getting bulk pill going like leather poisoning 101.
His preparation recovery, like he just is so strict, and so he's so sure of what he does and it works, and he's just been doing it. Like
physique
just
as well,
the consistency.
Like he's shredded.
Yeah.
But also like, I don't know, like you guys have obviously played with him longer than I have. I've only known him for 6 months, but he's just like such a good guy, such a good teammate, so selfless. Like sometimes, with superstar players like that, I had no idea he was like that. He's all just about the team, genuine excitement about making others better, making the team better. He's all about that. And it's like, he's one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with, and I've only known him for 6 months.
I think he's also a person that, he's almost like a coach on the field.
Yeah.
You talk about meetings. He knows every single role of every single player within the team. Even if it's like a key forward, a position you'll probably never play, he knows exactly where that person needs to be at all times during the game. Yeah. Like, you'll be sitting there looking at him. I'm like, I've been playing for 9 years, and he's going, you need to be 5 meters to the left. And I'm like, shit, you're right. Like, damn it. Yeah, it's just insane. So but another thing I'll say, Tom and Titch, one of these things I've realized, you've been here for 6 months, right? And it's, I think about, people are listening, maybe something they can take out of the podcast, right? Like, you came into the club very quickly, was able to gel with the team and then learn the game plan, be confident in speaking up in meetings and things like that. Like, was there any nervousness going into the club whenever you were traded?
So I made a conscious effort that as soon as my trade went through, I wasn't going to start day one of preseason with everyone. I was going to start in the off season, and anytime there was a group training session, I was going to be there every single session. And I didn't miss one starting from October to our official start of the preseason, which was December 1, I think. So, you talk about great leadership. I think it was Pendles actually who, as soon as us new guys, myself, Billy, Bobby, Dan, Leggy, as soon as we got traded, Pendles added us into the team players WhatsApp group, made us feel welcome, and then guys were inviting us to sessions and come here and do weights, or come here and let's have a kick, and so by the time the official pre-season started, I feel like I knew everyone. I was so comfortable already. Such a great group of guys. We worked really hard, and then we got to work officially with the staff on day one. But I guess that's where the confidence and the comfort came from, because I felt like I knew everyone and they gave me the confidence to do that.
Yeah. I want to ask you a question. Because
why don't we interview you for a second?
Yeah.
Step brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you've known Fly for, since you sort of got there.
Long time.
How have you seen his development and, I guess maturity from development sort of coach towards head coach and like his sort of journey through, the existence of
It's interesting because we've all had the experience, right? You both played at Hawthorn whenever he was the, development coach there. And Fly's a person that's probably been development coach for 15 years of his career or something like that.
He was assistant coach at Hawthorn.
Assistant coach, yeah. But he was development coach for that for a long, long time. And you think of like our list is we do have some of the experienced guys on the top end, right? They've been there for a while. And then we've got a lot of young guys on the list that are quite youthful. And like to have someone who's been a development coach who's been interacting with this that age group, people like changing and trying to get into the AFL system and stuff like that. Like it's probably given him the best experience possible to be able to handle the personal relationships that he has to deal with within our club. But for me, like I've known him for a long time, obviously, and he's it's kind of weird now, like because he's always been a friend of mine, but now for him to be a head coach, like you kind of have that not necessarily like nervousness around him, but like that he's top level now, like, and he is where the buck stops, and like whenever he says something, that's how it goes, and he has to be a bit more, I guess, direct sometimes being a head coach, and he's really good with being able to people manage. I think is like one of the hardest things as a head coach. You have to obviously tell someone either they're playing every single week or they're not playing every week, and that's essentially telling someone and like cutting their dreams on a weekly basis, knowing you're probably gonna have to do that to at least one person every week. And for all the head coaches out there, it's a terrible job. Like you never want to be the person that has to break that news to anyone. And like we've experienced it probably a lot more than you, Titch, as far as like getting dropped. And it's a really tough pill to swallow. Like it really is. And like Craig is one of those people, I've experienced it the last year whenever I was going through it, whenever I got dropped and things like that. And the way he handled it was like fantastic, and was able to, give me that confidence going forward that I knew I would be able to get that short time there to hopefully kind of launch pad back into it. But I think over the years, knowing Craig, it's, and you can kind of speak to this Titch a bit too. It's like, he doesn't feel like someone you can't go and talk to. Mm-hmm. Like his door's always open. He's always there to have a chat and just see how things are. And he like cracks a joke. He's not too serious, but knows when to be serious. Like there's times where he can sit there and say, we're not training at the highest standard. We need to turn things around like now. And, that kind of gets a bit more, I guess, it's a bit more weight to it whenever he says it, because he doesn't say it all the time. He's usually quite positive in everything that goes on. So whenever he says something like, get your shit together, we need to actually train harder now, everyone goes, okay, shit, like we are training pretty terrible. Like, let's turn this around. So, he's a phenomenal human, like an amazing, amazing person. It's great to be able to have this experience with him that we're having now. But it's been awesome. Like it's such a, back to the people management thing. I think that's just like his one word.
He's such a phenomenal person, first and foremost, and coach. It speaks for itself. I agree, spot on. The way he just values every single person in the organization, like, and he leads from the front in terms of setting the example. And I think that's why everyone follows him. And this culture that's been created is quite amazing. But I think from what I can gather, having done that long apprenticeship and done development and VFL, he's been in pretty much everyone's shoes. Like he's been there with the guys who are 40 to 45 on the list, and he speaks up in meetings and makes them feel valued and talks about the journey of VFL. And so we're all in this collective buy-in together. It's not all about the guys that are just playing on game day. It's about the club. He brings the staff along. Everyone's involved.
I was going to say, like you brought up, challenges and hardships, and like at the elite level, like there's so many individual circumstances, whether you're the top player, you're in the, bottom five, whatever it is, like, everyone knows Tommy for, or, yourself, myself for a little stint with like good footy that you play, right? But then they don't see a lot of the hardship and when you get dropped and like the stint that you play, at the reserves level of VFL. Like you had a fair bit of that at Sydney as well. Like tell us, some of the, I guess, things that you learnt, coaches that you had, and sort of things that you've taken.
You were dominating the NEFL, getting like 50 touches a game, but couldn't get a game in the seniors. And then that team goes and wins a premiership, and you're sitting there on the sidelines watching it. Like, put us in that scenario. Like, how do you mentally deal with that?
It's tough. Like, everyone faces adversity, don't they? At some point, whether it's in life or in footy. That was really tough. Like, I felt like almost helpless. Like, I knew I was playing really good footy, and I was just, I don't know.
You were still young. You were still young, right? You were really young. You just come into it. When did you get drafted?
2011
11,
draft.
yeah.
So 2012 was my first year.
And like already playing that level of footy though, right? Like, yeah, you're not, you're trying to break in the seniors and play, and you're doing, above and beyond in the seconds still as a 18, 19, 20-year-old sort of thing.
Like, what's the messaging from the coach at that point? It's just saying like, because there is an understanding from a coach's side of, you trust certain players that have been there for a long time. And it's tough to bring in a person whenever you're making a finals run that's in their first couple of years, whenever you've got someone there that's been there for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years that you trust and is going to be able to do the job. It's not ideal for either scenario or either side of the coin. Like, what is the feedback that a coach gives you whenever you are playing well, but you're not getting, I guess, the opportunity in the AFL level?
If I cast my memory, it was tough time. It was more around team balance at the time. Like, we had a deep midfield. But it was the messaging was you're doing great. Just wait for your chance. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough thing.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, you're like, all right. So just got to persist and keep going. I guess it makes you really hungry and motivated. And when I eventually did crack in, it was I was just so motivated to start and grow a career. So, but yeah, back to the adversity thing. Like, happens with everyone. Like, had a broken leg as well, and that was in my prime, like after my best footy. So it comes at all different stages. You guys have experienced it. Flip, you've played in the grand final and done all sorts of things as well. And Coxie, you've come from America and been on probably a bigger roller coaster than anyone. So, but for that reason, that life takes you on different journeys. And we probably let's talk a bit about your business as well, because I'm keen to ask you a bit about the SUPERBOOST.
All of us are doing good stuff, right?
Well, exactly. Maybe if the footy thing then didn't pan out how it has for you lately, this business you've got with SUPERBOOST, sports hydration. A lot of the Collingwood boys love this drink, like Guinea, Quainer, the two Dacos boys. Myself, I'm not sure if you're a fan, but
I can get around it.
This is the sports drink we have before every.
today.
Yeah.
I'll send you a photo on the Gold Coast.
I know, bro.
We drink this before every
Your
game.
brother's Lola.
He's all about it. I think he's still on the bill. Is that right? Give us a spiel on this SUPERBOOST, right?
Yeah.
So in speaking of that, like, we're all doing our own things, right? Like, I've got the podcast. Tom's got ball magnets. You've got SUPERBOOST. You've got Liz Pay coming in. Like, there's a lot of things, and it's cool to see athletes doing amazing things. And I think, like, not only from AFL standpoint, like, you've seen a lot of NBA players doing different things. From LeBron's got like a tequila and stuff, and all these other things they're investing in. And I think it's a great just kind of release from football, right? To sit there and say, like, this is something I'm passionate about that's away from the field that I can kind of dive into that makes you feel somewhat normal. Like, you're doing things that other people are trying to do. Like, give us a spiel on SUPERBOOST, because it's a good product, first of all. If anyone hasn't had it, where can you get it?
It's nowhere near as sugary as Gatorade. That's why I love it.
We were going to do the ad read before, but there's basically with this product, it's very high electrolytes, low sugar, low calories, delicious flavors. I've got these three at the moment, which are Coxie's holding the strawberry watermelon, Tommy's got the blueberry grape, and I've got the orange mango. And we've got a few more coming out, shortly, which will be great. Mainly into all the 7-Elevens at the moment, IGA, which is great. But yeah, mate, like with me, it's interesting. Like, I've always had, I think, and you guys would understand it through travel, seeing different cultures, going to different places. You see the ways that other people live, and you sort of start to, build a narrative and a perspective around your life. And I know for me, that football, was so important, growing up through my teenage years, but I still was able to see and, look at different, ways of how other people lived, luckily through traveling with family, traveling through, high school and some of those trips that they did as part of the curriculum, and seeing the way other people live and going, well, I had, got drafted in the system, had some really strong years, and then, got to the end of 2019 and then, decisions happen, things happen, and you realize that the footy environment, is a business. It's finite as well. Like, it's not, you're not here forever playing this great game, and the best are, and they are so consistent and, cap off to them. And, for me, it's like, I started to then, look at, all right, what else can I upskill myself in whilst, playing footy and continuing to push out that career and that path, how can I sort of advance myself, and while I'm young and while I'm learning and while I'm able to educate myself, where else can I try and push myself with what I can learn? So I like to surround myself with like-minded people. You guys are the epitome with that, with seeing the society in different ways, challenging different things, being disruptive and innovative and creative in your thinking, challenging yourself, pushing yourself, having a good work ethic. Like, they're all the sort of things and the ingredients to create your own business and go down that sort of path. And I think with the overall perspective of, I want to do something that's highly valuable for a number of people in the world. So if it's hydration, if it's putting a roof over, people's heads and creating something that aids, in that development and that sort of thing, it's like looking at what's the biggest, I think a good quote from Shaq, he talks about, investing in things that will change the world, like invest in something that's going to build the greatest value in what humanity will need. And the biggest entrepreneurs you see, the biggest leaders in this space, they see the world in those sort of ways, pretty existentially. They zoom right out and they go, all right, where they can connect all the dots, where are the biggest opportunities, and then being able to then zoom back in and be hyper-focused on, all right, what's in the short, medium, long term, how do you actually get from A to B and consistently keep putting the hours in to be able to build something. And for me, it's been an interesting transition, from the AFL space. This concept with SUPERBOOST started the end of 2019, and really gathered momentum, throughout COVID, that year of 2020, and a lot of product development work and that sort of things before we launched in market, early last year, about 14 months ago. Now, there's been a lot of changes with the product, packaging, branding.
I'm calling it'll be Australia's best sports drink.
Huge.
In very short period of time.
Hopefully seeing.
Talk about the athletes that are bought in already. So Paddy Mills, Joe Ingles, arguably two of Australia's greatest ever basketball players. Obviously, Ball Magnets, we're keen because of the athletes we have and the interest in it as well. And then you've got Tuke Miller, so many guys in the AFL space, the netball. There's hundreds of athletes who are invested in this product.
The thing about that, Tommy, is it's the shared audience and consumer base. We're all consumers to something, whatever that information is, whatever the material is, it's what we decide to purchase and buy off a shelf versus what we decide to watch on our screens. Each of us, have to, we consume everything and we interact and we engage with, stuff every day. So if we can create better for you products and services and, podcasts that you guys are doing that, are insightful, they're giving purpose and value to others listening. That's disruptive in itself. And it's it's the new world order with this next generation and trying to engage and be leaders for young people coming up, in their lives. There's so much changing in the world and there's so many external forces and controls, and it's sort of how can we play a part in trying to, better our youth and people that grew up just like we did. How do we give back to that next generation? And, they're the young kids that are playing sport, through watching elite athletes, giving their expertise through coaching, whatever it is. And then, if we can give them products that are better for you, it's all sharing in that next generation.
Yeah, it's been incredible to get to know over the years, and not only you, your family also, and what you're doing with the 7 Women's Project over in Nepal. Lots of things that you're doing that are pretty beneficial for not only the people of the area, but just creating a better future for the generations ahead. It's pretty cool. I know recently you did something for, I want to say it was Indigenous communities through SUPERBOOST in a basketball tournament, wasn't it? So not only that, you're doing stuff with this to be able to help better people also. I think that's important in business.
That's it, man. It's leveraging, athletes and the people that are involved, right? So, someone like Paddy Mills, someone like Josh Giddey, each of us, right? We have our own social impact stories of what we're wanting to do. Tommy doing a heap of stuff with the RSPCA, you're massive in that space, and they're the things that are the hobbies and the interests outside of the individual channel of sport, whatever we're doing at that elite level. It's for Paddy and his basketball. It's all right. How can I give back to communities that I grew up in, you know, and give the same opportunities to, you know, indigenous boys and girls that, you know, want to play basketball and try and make it just like he did, you know. So it's being able to leverage and work with athletes like they're part of the team, you know, they're part of the business, and it's, you know, everyone works for one like that.
What would you say is the company motto for this? I love to ask this question.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I mean, where SUPERBOOST is, you know, next generation hydration. So it's you know, looking at being better for you, built by athletes, but for the everyday person. So no matter, you know, your situation, no matter your circumstance, you know, if you want to get the best out of your performance and to boost your performance and improve your recovery, this is, you know, the best sort of drink for you at the moment. I
feel like we should do a few giveaways as well, because I feel like for people out there, well, it's in 7-Elevens and things, but to actually try the product, we're trying it right now. But like, you can tell it's actually like it's not like a sugary
it's
drink.
a lighter feeling.
It's coconut water. It's not the high fructose corn syrup that you would find in the Powerade.
Which is why our boys at the Pies love it, because it's not sugary. You don't like feel sick at all. I reckon half our team has one before. Even on away trips, like where were we our last trip? Gold Coast.
Brazzy, that video of Brazzy was funny.
And you see the boys off the bus and they're waving their SUPERBOOST. So the boys go down to the 7-Eleven, everyone gets one. It's cool. It's genuine.
It's a good thing about playing with, you know, your teammates and the experiences you have, right? Like, it's all, everyone supports each other, you know, like that. And like, you know, the stuff that, you know, Tommy's done, you know, through ball mags as well, you know, that being born a little bit out of COVID when kids couldn't, you know, get around each other, playing at their organised sport and that sort of stuff with their clubs, and they had to then do stuff virtually, right? I mean, that's a cool story.
Yeah. No.
Is that the basis of Ball Magnets now, is being able to provide online content for kids?
Well, yeah, that's where it originated during COVID. I was helping out at some junior clubs, facilitating training sessions, and then obviously in COVID, no one can go train with their mates anymore. So I'm like, okay, well, how can I create something where kids can still access their idols and elite athletes who they look up to? And so, yeah, that's where I created an app, a virtual program and programs and training drills for kids who at home could still connect in that way, because that's the only way you could connect. So, yeah, that's what the platform originally allowed kids to do, and still get access to the athletes. Because I know when I was a kid, that's all I ever wanted. Every time I connected with an athlete, I remember that moment. Like, you take those memories with you. So we just wanted to create as memories as we could virtually, and that whole experience. And now that COVID's finished and hopefully never comes back, we can get back into the community, which we've already started doing. You know, we plan on running some super clinics soon, getting all our Ball Magnets athletes, Josh Giddey, Cripper, Lockie Neal, a lot of your athletes getting together, some super camps around basketball, footy, other sports when the time comes to get involved and, you know, connect with everyone, because they're the memories that'll last lifetimes.
I think it's and one thing with what you're doing in the Mason Cox show, and, you know, obviously the Ball Magnets podcast, like the last time we sat on a podcast was about 4 years ago now.
Boardroom.
And that was called that was the Boardroom podcast. And I was Collingwood. I was doing that with a few mates out at Collingwood.
Yeah.
We did that for about 2 years, about 50 episodes, and Mason jumped on. I reckon. Yeah. Every 2 or 3 weeks.
Spots,
So it's good to see this taken off as well.
It's
cool.
It's great to see everyone doing everything. I want to say Ball Magnets, a lot of people think it's just football. You're also getting into the basketball side of things, correct?
Correct, yeah. Footy and basketball. So obviously Josh Giddey, probably Australia's best basketball player at the moment at just 20 years of age. He runs everything in the basketball aspect of Ball Magnets. So that's his category. And yeah, we've just filmed a number of his sessions out at Hoop City. He's been obviously home for the off season. So there'll be gym sessions released by Josh Giddey, how he trains and prepares for the NBA, skills sessions, ball handling, shooting, passing. So for any athlete out there, no matter what level you're at, you know, there's drills for everyone, beginner, intermediate, and elite. And then, no one better to learn from than Josh, the best up-and-comer in the country.
He's an absolute freak.
He's a freak.
He's
getting triple-doubles in his second year. He's been like LeBron James records. It's crazy.
You know, the really bad thing, though, is Josh Giddey at the moment, it's a sad that I picture this, is whenever LeBron broke the scoring record, right?
Yeah.
Josh Giddey's just missed out on the photo. The iconic photo, LeBron taking the jumper. It's kind of Josh Giddey's almost like behind someone. And I was like,
was he in the key?
He's about 2 meters away.
Yeah.
He should have found it. It's kind of like last night, like You want to be the guy that give Pendles the touch.
or kicked it to.
Who kicked it to it?
I think he kicked it to Isaac, honestly, or something like that.
Nobes or something, is it?
You should have run around for a handball. Or something.
Yeah, something like that. But no, it's great to see different athletes doing different things and be able to extend their experiences past just a football career to help them build something that's bigger than just what they've done on the football field. So it's been absolutely incredible. We'll wrap this up, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It's been great having all three of us get on this podcast together and be able to riff a bit of off-season stories and a few kind of business ideas that we're doing. But hopefully everyone got something out of this, and we'll hear from you soon.
Ball Magnets Podcast would love to thank this week's brand sponsor, SUPERBOOST, the next generation in performance hydration. SUPERBOOST is the only sports drink built by athletes for the next generation, formulated to boost performance and improve recovery. SUPERBOOST is packed with electrolytes, is low in sugar and calories, and an unbeatable taste across delicious flavors, including blueberry grape, strawberry watermelon, and my favorite, orange mango. SUPERBOOST is now available at stores including 7-Eleven, IGA, and more.
He's a superstar. He is an absolute superstar, Tom Mitchell. Cripps at the back. Cripps is too good. Neil